Welcome to another episode of That's Some Crazy Shit with Kelly and James. I am Kelly, and my co-host, as always, is James. What's up, brother?
What is up, my sister and co-host?
Co-host with the most. That would be you.
Okay.
That's you.
I am the most.
Yep. So I am happy to be here today. We have, I should say, a wonderful guest. Do you want to know who we're talking to today?
Yeah. Who are we talking to today, Kel?
Today, James, we are talking to Melissa Kitto.
And what is it about Melissa that's so crazy?
The thing about Melissa is that she is a angel guidance coach. She helps you connect and talk to your angels, which I think is very cool. She is dedicated to empowering others, spiritual seekers, and help them develop a direct communication with their own spiritual helpers. So she is out to help people, and she's going to be with us today. And when we say it's crazy shit, especially when there are angels involved, because I don't need any problems with angels, we are talking crazy shit with no disrespect. It is just some crazy shit that she does.
Right. I mean, and we have talked about angels, and that's why it's funny. It just hit me. We were talking about angels before, remember?
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, that would be cool to do a show, and then we hook up with her. So Melissa.
So I'm excited. I'm always wanting to know how to connect with angels, and anytime that we can connect with an expert or somebody who can teach us some techniques and practices, I'm all for it. I think it's crazy good shit, but I'm excited. Should we bring her on?
Let's do it.
Welcome to the podcast, Melissa Kitto. Melissa, thank you for joining us on That's Some Crazy Shit. So excited to talk to you. Me and James have talked about angels in the past and really don't know a lot about them. So I'm glad that we have somebody that knows and that can help us. And so welcome. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
So James, go ahead. I know that you said you had some questions. You're being all professional with your questions. So
I'm trying to be a better interviewer.
I'll let you get started. Go ahead.
All right, Melissa, I have a question for you. Some of the guests that we've spoken to in the past consider what they do a gift. Is what you do a gift? Is it a skill? Is it a power? How would you describe it?
So what I'm interested in is helping people to develop their own abilities. So I believe that everybody is psychic to a certain degree. We all have spiritual abilities because that's our true nature. The real you is energy. So I actually don't consider what I have to be a gift, because when I started out, I was not in touch with this stuff at all. I learned through the same tools and practice that I now help other people to do. So it's also based on, you have inner guidance, and we always have help available to us. And by learning the right tools, and also by tuning into your own intuition, you can get more in touch with that and utilize it in your life.
So I always ask the question when people talk about getting in touch with their intuition, listening to your intuition. And I'm gonna ask you the same question that I've asked before. How do you know when it's your intuition, your higher self, or when it's your ego? Because sometimes your ego can really talk you into doing things that maybe are not the best for you in the long run. I mean, the ego's the one that tells you to go ahead and eat that second piece of pie. Who cares? I think that's your ego, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's the most common question that people ask me. It's like, how can I distinguish the difference between my intuition or my guides talking to me versus my own mind, that more rational side? And I know sometimes it's challenging still for me, right? But the way to distinguish it is it's really taking some time to tune into how it really feels. And most people don't do that. Most people are very busy, they're rushing around, they're more in their head. So it takes a little practice to go, okay, in that bigger picture, how does this decision really feel to me? Does it feel open and expansive, or does it feel more contracted? And I think there's some work to be done with the example that you brought up of, am I looking for that instant gratification? Or am I looking for something that's more in alignment with my big picture, my purpose, and my goals? And that's what our angels will keep reminding us of. But yeah, it's not always easy to put into practice.
So go ahead, James.
I have a question. So what are angels and where do they come from?
Yeah. So it's coming from the idea that you are energy. You are a soul with a body, not a body with a soul. And so our angels are actually not better than us. They're not greater than us. You don't even really have to call them angels. You could call them helpers or guides or messengers, whatever. Mm-hmm. And they are souls just like us, but they have graduated from planet Earth. They've mastered the lessons here. And so their next opportunity and growth is to be a helper for us.
So people talk about angels and they say that, angels have names, right? Raphael, whatever. And I always wondered, how do we know what their names are? Like, who said? Does that make sense? Like, who said this angel? Who told us that was the name of the angel, I guess is what I'm asking. I always wondered that.
Right. Well, I think some of that comes from religions. And I actually don't resonate with the idea that angels really have a name. I think that we've put personalities onto it. We have traditions. We might, call them Raphael, Michelangelo, etc. However, from that bigger picture spiritual point of view, you are energy, and it kind of takes all of that personality out of it. So I get that question from people a lot with their personal team of angels. They're like, what are their names? And I say, you can ask them a name if you want to, but I've never actually had a name for mine, because it's more that they're just helpers and a higher evolved state of consciousness.
Sometimes I think people, they have to put a name to something so they can rationalize and accept it. The concept of God, it's like, I think spirit is so much greater than that, but we have to bring it down to something we can understand. So, putting a name to that helps, I think.
Absolutely.
So Melissa, tell us about your journey. How did you come to the place where you are now? You said before that you really weren't into this stuff, and now you are. So what did that look like for you?
Well, I was pretty young at the time, so that was part of it. I was about 12 years old, and my mum was really on an intense kind of spiritual search for, she kind of came to that point in her life where she was looking for some meaning and purpose. And I remember at the time, this was pre-internet days, so she had this bookshelf packed full of every new age book she could find, right? And then she came to a point where she wanted to sort of put that into practice instead of reading books so much. So she actually found an organization that's now called the Wayshowers College, and she was involved with that for about a year, and she started telling me some things that she was learning. And I was very curious about it. It sort of seemed to be out of the blue, because I actually didn't go to church or any have that kind of experience prior to that. So, but I was curious. So when she asked if I wanted to have a session where I'd learn about my angels and my intuition, I went along with it. And even though I didn't really know if I believed in angels at the time. So during that session, I was taught a technique where I would be able to ask my angels a question and get an answer. And I didn't know if this was going to work. I felt kind of stupid, but actually I had an experience that day that I would now, looking back, call a spiritual awakening. Because I remember standing in that room and I could see the table and the chairs right in front of me. And I could also kind of tap in and see the spiritual realm and notice that both were just as real as the other. And so that kind of set me on a course of really delving into this for myself and learning about it. So as a teenager, in my early 20s, I was going to a lot of groups and courses and things. And it helped me to get in touch with myself at the end of the day and to feel like, okay, I have a purpose and I can choose what that is for myself by looking within.
So tell us some of the things that you can help us with to help us be able to actually communicate with our angels, if we wanted to? How does that work? I always afraid that I'm doing it wrong. That is like my biggest fear.
Yeah.
I'm doing it wrong, right?
Sure.
So how does that work?
Yeah, and I love that you said that, because that's what I consider my job to be, sort of thing, is like to be that bridge between people that don't know how to do it. And I go, oh, that's why I started doing this work as a career. At a certain point, I said, wow, this has helped me so much. And yet I can see all these other people don't know how to do it. And it's actually very simple to me. And it is to everybody, really, but you just need to learn the right tools. But I would say the first thing to do is to start paying more attention to the hunches, the inspirations, the ideas that kind of pop in your mind out of nowhere. It can sometimes seem like it's your own mind, but usually there'll be more of a lightness to it. It kind of just pops in out of nowhere. And the other thing to pay attention to is when you feel like chills or goosebumps or tingling, and that's because they have that high vibration of energy. That's when they're wanting to communicate something to you. So it could be a sign to pay attention, or a confirmation that you're on the right track, reassurance, like pay attention to what's happening at that moment. So that's the first thing, is like pay more attention. And then you can start learning these tools to actually say, okay, I have this challenge in my life. Can you help me? You know, one of the things that is a good place to start with that is to start asking for some key words. I can guide you guys through that if you're interested.
Yes.
Oh, very.
Yeah. Okay. So you can do just like a general message about my life, my purpose, or you could, if people have something specific they want help with, like I'm really challenged in my job right now or something. So it's good to start with that. And then you just kind of close your eyes and relax. And one thing I have that I teach people is a technique to be more relaxed and more tuned in. So I'll tell people about that at the end, because that will really help this process. But also just closing your eyes and taking some deep breaths and being present is good as well. And so then you just say in your mind, angels, give me one word. And then you take a deep breath and relax and just listen and pay attention for that word to come into your mind. And when you have it, you can just note it down. And usually it will come in pretty quickly, as long as we're not blocking ourselves. And then just close your eyes again and say, angels, give me 2 words. Take a deep breath, relax, and take note of the 2 words that come to your mind. And we could keep going, but we'll do it one more time. We'll say, close your eyes and say, angels, give me a phrase. Take a deep breath, relax, and take note of the phrase that comes to mind. So then when you have those words, you can then interpret that message for yourself, right? I don't believe that they're going to tell us what to do. They're going to give us some guidance, and we can interpret that and take whatever meaning from it that feels right.
Cool.
So how was that experience?
It was cool. James, what were your words?
Well, the first one I got was meditate. And we've been talking about me doing meditate. The next 2 I got were resonate and resolve. And then I don't know where this comes from, but the phrase I got was, as so it goes.
Nice.
So my words.
All right, what about you, Kelly?
So the first word I got was love. The second words I got were love yourself. And then the last words I got were you got this.
Nice. Yeah. I find that the messages will often be reassuring like that. That just like almost like this coach that's got your back and is encouraging you along the way. I feel like that's the relationship that we have with our guides.
That is really cool. That's a cool technique.
That is cool.
Because you're going with the very first word, and you don't give yourself time to overthink it. See, I think that's my other problem too.
Yeah.
I really tend to overthink it. right? And you had mentioned something earlier about instant gratification.
Instant, yeah.
And that is also a problem for me, because you're like, am I doing this right? Because nothing's happening, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that you have to have patience, because it sounds like, Melissa, it's a process.
Yeah, it is a process. And so it's one thing to learn the tools. That doesn't really take that long. And then what I help people with is just really practicing this and feeling confident with it. Because the things that you're saying, is common. There's things like, I just feel like I'm making it up, or I don't know if that's really right, or, they start second guessing and doubting. So a lot of this growth is about, okay, let's start trusting actually what I'm getting. Instead of that monkey mind trying to figure it all out, you just end up going around in circles when you do that. So I'll often say to people, okay, just try it on for size. Imagine if it was true, then what would you do with it? And by just trying to let go of that doubt a little bit and take on a new habit of trusting, they can actually utilize that information and start getting more guidance, right? It builds on itself.
So I'll ask you a question, James. They always say that women have great intuition, right? Women intuition. Mm-hmm. But do you listen to your intuition?
I do more.
Do you more?
And it's funny that you talk about women's intuition. Years ago, when I was younger, my mom told me not to do something. She had a bad feeling. And me being a teenage boy, of course, did it. And there were consequences, and that's when I started to learn to listen to my mom's intuition. And then years later, I read, and I wish I remember what it was, about a study where they studied women's intuition, and it came back like, 75, 80% times it was accurate, more than just chance. And I always thought that was interesting. So I do try to listen to it.
So, Melissa, why do you think that is? Or why do you think women... They say that women's intuition, is it because we're natural nurturers and we listen more, or what do you think that is? So.
I actually think that that's more sort of society's programming, right? And this is very present to me because I have a son, and I grew up in a house full of girls, so it was like, oh, a boy, okay, what do I do with this, And but our society does not encourage boys to be in touch with their feelings. It's like, man up, squash those feelings. So the side effect of that is that really your feeling side is your intuition. And so men have just been programmed and taught to, not trust that part or squash it down. And everybody has both, right? We have the feeling nature and we have the intellectual nature. And it's just women are more encouraged to be in their feelings. But I don't believe that actually it is that way, that everybody has both parts. And really, in order to be more successful and balanced, the process is feel, think, act, right? So the feeling is the first impression, and then the think is, okay, now what am I going to do with this to organize myself? And then act is to, take action on that and accomplish something with it.
Yeah, well, I never really thought about it that way. So you're probably right, because you do get gut feelings, don't you, James? Don't you just get like...
Oh, I do. And growing up with, 4 sisters and my mom, who were all, they were all into card reading and tarot and stuff, that I was always encouraged to kind of go with your gut feeling, I tell you all the time, oh, I feel something, It's like, I don't,
Yes.
Yeah, because you were more encouraged to do that. So that's great.
Yeah.
So when you work with your clients, Melissa, if somebody wanted to come and work with you, what would they expect? Like how do you know where to start, I guess?
Mm-hmm. Where most people start is with a consultation, which I call the Angels Direct Connect. And that tells you what your strength is out of the 4 spiritual abilities. And those are intuition or clairaudience, vision or clairvoyance, prophecy, which is more an inner knowing, and feeling, the gut feelings and hunches. So we all have all 4 of those gifts, but you have one that is your primary gift, and it also tells you about your personality as well. So you learn about that, you learn some information about your energy, and then how many guides or angels you have on your personal team, where they give you that feeling of chills, and then how to, ask your angels direct questions and get immediate answers. And I also, from that, I also have a course that people can do that, goes deeper into practicing those techniques and connecting with others.
So tell us about the course. If somebody was interested in taking it, how do we find out about it?
Yeah. So it's called the Communicate with Your Angels online course. It's on my website at communicatewithandels.com/enroll. And so it actually does include that private session that I just described, because the technique in there, it's important that somebody work with a kind of certified consultant to make sure that they're really doing it correctly. And then they delve into like 5 modules. Some of it is similar to the keyword practice I just did quickly with you, and you actually can practice all of your gifts, getting messages. So getting messages through visions and pictures, getting messages through an inner knowing, or also like premonitions about the future, and also messages as feelings. And that one can be more challenging for people because we're not sometimes comfortable taking enough time to notice what I feel. Right. But I think it's very, very powerful. And then I also share in those videos about how to phrase questions. There's some things you want to avoid in your, connecting with your guides. And an example of that is, don't use should, right? Should I do this? Because they're not your boss. There's really no such thing as should, right? We think that there's a right and a wrong, but really you actually are free. You have choice. So those kind of things I help people with, because if I say should or want my angels to tell me what to do, very soon they're kind of just going to stop communicating, because it's like interfering with the boundaries that they have to respect you. So by the end of that course, people are really well equipped, and we also have like group Zoom calls to keep practicing and answer questions. And I find that just really helps people to get confident with this part of themselves. We all have it as little kids, but when I was small, my parents would say, "Oh no, you're just making it up. That's just your imagination. It's not real." And so I learned to not trust that part of myself, right? So I was able to reawaken it as a teenager, which is younger than most people, but we can all do that no matter what age. It's like reawakening what you already have inside and putting it kind of to the forefront of your life.
And that's interesting, because we've talked about, Gary and I, the 2 groups of people we don't listen to are the young and the old.
Yeah, and they have a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
So are the classes self-paced? Should they be, do you have them done in a certain time, or can you go at your own pace?
Yeah, so I set up, there's sort of an online videos and PDFs that people can do self-paced. And then I just do this about 2 or 3 times a year, where I'll actually guide people through it live, kind of. So they have the video course regardless, but I'll add in those group calls because it's fun for me. And I think people, really get a lot out of connecting with like-minded people, because sometimes people feel alone in this journey, like the name of your podcast, crazy, like nobody else thinks this way. So that's a real healing in itself, is to connect with like-minded people and be able to share experiences with each other.
See, and that's cool, because some people tell you sometimes that the voice in your head sometimes is crazy, and it's not. Even sometimes you get some really crazy idea, but it's probably not. And then maybe 2 years, you'll see that same thing that you thought about someplace else, and somebody actually did it. I've had people tell me that that's happened to them before, because they didn't listen, right? So I know that me and James are on a mission to listen to our intuition and our gut instincts, really, because this podcast and all the people that we've met and all the information that we, like what you just showed us how to do, is phenomenal.
Yeah, and I often say, when I'm teaching a workshop, do you ever wish you had a big shoe to kick yourself because you didn't trust that first impression? It's like everybody's nodding.
Yes.
Very common experience. Yeah, so what would happen if I actually listened and did something with it right at the time? And that's challenging sometimes, because even now, sometimes when I get a message from my angels or an answer to a question, I don't actually understand it. I can't quite see why I'm getting that answer. But often, and if I just trust it anyway, it's often in hindsight, then I know why. Okay, now I understand why I got that answer.
Right.
Yeah.
Even when James said, let's do the podcast, just on that quick of a decision, that's how quickly we made the decision. Just to do, he threw it out there and was like, okay, let's do it.
And it's been going pretty quickly since. And, you know, like you say, I've learned a lot about myself since we've been doing this.
Yeah, and you've been following through on it, and that's where some people, it's one thing to get a hunch and impression and then really put it into action, because I think sometimes the people on a spiritual journey, they go too far the other way. Like, we do live in a material world as well, so I'm very much about making this practical. Like, yes, tune into your intuition and your guidance. Okay, and then what you're going to do with it? How are you going to shift things, your habits, your the things you're getting involved in your life?
And how do you keep up that momentum, right?
Yeah, that's a good question.
How do you keep up that momentum? Even that's why I ask you, like, were your classes self-paced? Because people will be excited, and then you're right, they won't get that instant gratification, and then they'll stop.
Charge.
Right, that charge. So you have to keep going. That's why I say it's a process. And I say that because I'm really talking to myself when I say
no, me too, though. You're talking to me too.
Right? It is a process. And so I want people to understand that, you know, what you do, you learned over time.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely. Yes.
And practiced.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, I was going to groups for 4 or 5 years before I then said, okay, now I feel like I could actually, teach this to other people. And I'm always still learning and growing. That's a big value for me, is I'm never done, right? I never consider myself perfect or a guru or expert. It's like, I'm just going to share my experiences and people can take it or leave it.
And
I get wary of people who say, like, oh, I know everything.
Right. The nice thing is that you can work with people anywhere because of the internet. So one more time, let people know how they can reach you.
Yes, so my website is communicatewithangels.com, and the main place you'll find me on social media is my YouTube channel, and so people can go to YouTube and search for Communicate with Angels and find me there as well.
Very cool. Melissa, thank you so much for being on That's Some Crazy Shit. We appreciate you. It's good crazy shit. So we mean no disrespect when we say that.
No.
We are dealing with angels and stuff, and we want to be cool.
And one more thing I forgot to share too. I wanted to offer people listening, if they want to learn that spiritual cleansing technique to be more tuned in with their guides, they can find that at communicatewithangels.com/cleansing and learn that technique.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate having you here. It's been fun. I learned a lot. Thanks for the technique. I'm going to try that more often.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Once again, my mind was blown, Kel. That was some crazy shit.
That little technique that she showed us, I have been telling your ass to meditate for almost a constant year now, right? I have been saying meditate. And that's what your guides told you.
First, and you know what's funny, Cal? This is how fast your mind works. We were talking, you even brought up, you're like, well, am I doing it right? Should I listen? When I saw that word meditate, the first thing that came in my mind was, well, that's not right. And then just that quickly, I'm like, you better write it down. And then, so then I wrote that. And then, what was the other one? Resonate. That's interesting. We talked about frequencies. Maybe I'm changing a frequency.
Yeah.
And resolve. Maybe I need to show a little resolve, and we'll, who knows where we're going to take this stuff, my friend.
A resolve in learning technology.
Yep. That's what I got to.
That's it. Mine were cool too, because mine was love, right? And the second one I got was love yourself. And that's funny because I've been on this big self-love kick in my head, right? So that's funny that's what come up, because I've been really trying to focus on like being comfortable in my own skin, which is crazy shit if you're not comfortable in your own skin. And what's even crazier is how many people are not comfortable in their own skin.
And you know what's crazy is you being my friend, and as long as I've known you, I find it hard to believe that you're not comfortable in your skin. And that just goes to show how people can be uncomfortable and not show it.
Right. And then my last one was, you got this. So, and that to me means whatever we're going to do, either we're going to take this podcast to new heights, whatever, travel the world, whatever it is, James, that we decide to do, my guide said, you got this. So I thought that was very cool of her to share that little technique. We're going to have to use it again.
And you know what's funny? You get, you got this, and I get, as so it goes. What the hell's that, man?
I don't know, but it was cool.
That was cool.
It was cool. If you are interested in connecting with Melissa and learning about communicating with your angels, she has a wonderful website, communicatewithangels.com. There you can go and learn about her online series and find out all the techniques and get training with her. I think she'd be a wonderful teacher. Just that quickly, we learned something new, or she taught us a little technique, which I thought was cool.
Right.
I thought was really cool. So, you want to do some random bullshit?
Well, what you got for random bullshit?
So, I don't know if you've heard of this, but I was reading an article, and women, I guess now that women who are, I guess, natural women, meaning not transgender, and no shade toward no whatever. I just don't like the idea of women that are women being referred to as birthing people. Have you seen this? Yes. There was an article, and I saw a news story on CNN where they were, because when you say woman or women, it's such a general term, I guess, with transgender, that now natural women, meaning those who are born and choose to be women, who can bear children, and that would be a natural woman, as I understood it. Now, if I'm wrong, somebody please correct me. But, I would fall into that category as a birthing person. Birthing person. Person who gives birth. Which is funny, because not all natural women can give birth. There's a lot of women out there who cannot give birth, who are women. Right? And so I don't understand why we have yet now another gender or whatever. We have another label to call somebody.
Yeah.
And this was like in Congress, where I was watching like a little snippet of like CNN or whatever the hell I was watching, and they were referring to women as birthing people. Birthing people. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that. Come on, seriously?
I really
seriously.
do. Because that just makes it, okay, this is what comes to my mind immediately. I go to aliens, and then I go to the term they always throw out, there's breeders. And it's like, so are you telling me that these aren't persons, these aren't people anymore? They're just breeders. You're just there to give birth. I don't groove on that.
Birthing people.
Yeah,
and then as I was Googling and finding out more about birthing people, as I started going down the birthing people rabbit hole, I didn't know that there was a birthing people's Bill of Rights. They're not called mothers anymore. They're called birthing people. And there's actually a story in it that happened, printed in the New York Post. They are now calling women birthing people. And I have a problem with that, because I just don't think, again, not all women can give birth.
Or choose to
give birth. And I don't know what that means. Why can't we? What?
Okay, I want to throw it out to our female listeners. I want you guys to chime in on this. What do you think about that label?
Do you want to be known as a birthing person? Seriously?
Yeah. So what does that make male people?
Oh, you guys just get to be dudes, men.
We're like studs, man.
Okay, whatever.
No,
But
there's that discrepancy though.
And I know this is legit because it's in the New York Post, and I Googled it. It's not only on the New York Post, CNN also picked up this story as well. And I cannot believe that we should have to be called birthing people for the sake of political correctness. When is political correctness taking it a step too far? When you start calling women birthing people. And that is my commentary on birthing people.
Well, and real quickly, who came up with that term?
Some dude.
No,
it was a man. You
Right.
better believe that shit came from a man, because no woman would ever say, I think that we should be called birthing people. Because the term woman is just too general. The term woman is such a broad umbrella when actually, newsflash, it's actually not. But if, birthing people. I don't know, James. I don't know, dude.
Yeah, that is some bullshit.
And if you ever call me a birthing person, I'm punching you. So you have been warned.
Yeah, I'm going to too.
You have been warned. That is all I have for random bullshit. I just wanted to put it out there. If you don't know about birthing people and how they want to start calling women birthing people, Google it. Don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. Go to Google.
That's some crazy shit, man.
That is some crazy shit. James, it's always a pleasure. I always enjoy spending time with you. Next week, another guest, a new episode, more crazy shit.
So I'm changing my tagline to, as so it goes.
Once again, it's like I said, it's been a pleasure. And until next time.
And so, keep your minds open, people.